Thank you very much. And Mr. Kayuki, I'm happy to be joining virtually from Canada. I'm disappointed I'll be missing the sake later, but I'm looking forward to speaking with you today. So today I'll be providing some perspectives and challenges about technologies related to demand side management. As Mr. Kayuki said, I am joining from the federal government in Canada, and my focus is on energy efficiency programs. So as you may know, Canada's electricity system is among the lowest emitting in the world, with more than 80% of electricity generation coming from low or non-emitting sources. And this is largely due to Canada's hydroelectric generation across the country, which supplies over 60% of Canada's electricity. Nuclear generation, as well as wind and solar, contribute to our high proportion of non-emitting generation, but there's still natural gas and other fossil fuel sources commonly used to address peak demand, as well as support remote communities across the country. So better managing energy use in commercial and industrial buildings results in cost savings to business owners and reduced greenhouse gas emissions. When you target peak demand reduction specifically, there are additional benefits to the system, reducing stress and reducing the need for fossil fuel generation. And I did hear Ms. Carré speak to this idea in the last presentation as well. Reducing energy use at peak also results in additional savings to energy consumers if it reduces the need to build new system infrastructure. So when energy systems are being planned and designed, comparing demand and supply side options is called integrated resource planning. So there have been concerted efforts to manage energy demand for the last 2 decades in Canada, but there are several challenges to reaching the full potential for reductions. And one of the first things is in Canada, the jurisdiction for energy is divided between different orders of government. The federal government is primarily concerned with regulation of interprovincial and international trade and commerce, as well as managing non-renewable resources on federal lands. With respect to how energy is used for businesses, the federal government provides funding programs, develops model building codes for the provinces and territories to adopt, and develops minimum energy performance standards for energy consuming equipment that is coming in and into Canada or between provinces and territories. However, the bulk of the responsibility for energy use lays with the provincial governments, who have jurisdiction over exploration, development, conservation, and management of those resources, as well as planning and operating their electricity systems. They are also the ones responsible for adopting building codes and setting standards for the energy-using products that are developed within their own jurisdiction. Energy suppliers and provincial system operators are largely responsible for planning and operating the systems for their provinces. And this includes consideration of demand-side management as an alternative to building infrastructure. However, the regulatory approaches in different provinces and territories vary significantly, and sometimes they even vary within the same jurisdiction. So there's a significant challenge, and collaboration is really important within Canada to achieve some of these pieces. And I know that varies from different countries, but I'm sure some of the similar challenges exist in other places. The second challenge is just really different geography and resources available. So while Quebec, British Columbia, and Newfoundland have significant hydroelectric resources, other areas need to rely more heavily on fossil fuels. And the Northern Territories have very harsh climates and significant use of microgrids and diesel generation. So this affects the availability and affordability of energy for businesses and for residents. The third challenge is, like many countries, the business sector itself is very diverse. Recent statistics say that almost 98% of businesses in Canada are small businesses, 2% are medium-sized, or less than 2%, and then 0.2% are larger businesses. And there's great diversity, so agriculture, food, construction, consumer products, energy, manufacturing, services, technology. and they all have different markets, different opportunities and challenges, and different abilities to reduce their energy use at peak. Also, unfortunately, according to the International Energy Agency, but also aligned with our own data that we have, Canada does have a very energy intensive economy, owing to the energy production and also considerable amounts of energy required by industries to extract and process energy resources. In addition, because Canada is so big and so cold, that also requires energy to move things and to keep people warm, as well as just sustain living standards. So what is the federal government doing to support businesses to use less energy and reduce their emissions? Well, in 2022, the federal government released the 2030 Emissions Reductions Plan, which has actions across all sectors and targets a 40% reduction in emissions by 2030 compared to 2005 levels and net zero by 2050. So the plan is an overall plan for all of the federal government to work on different areas such as reducing emissions in buildings, electricity system, heavy industry, including oil and gas, agriculture, and other areas. There are a few programs that I just wanted to highlight that are available to Canadian businesses. And the first one I wanted to mention, especially following session 2, was a program targeting industrial facilities specifically. It's called the Green Industrial Facilities and Manufacturing Program. It was started last year, and it's supporting decarbonization of the industrial sector. There's funding available to support implementation of ISO 50001 energy management standard, training, audits, as well as support industrial retrofits. Listening to the last session, a lot of industrial companies are making their own plans. And so this is the type of program that provides funding that will support different kinds of projects. There's also 2 that I wanted to mention that are aimed more at commercial type buildings, but that may be more relevant to the consumer industry. So we've got the Deep Retrofit Accelerator Initiative that aims to build capacity to do deep retrofits in existing buildings, as well as the Codes Acceleration Fund, which is supporting and aiming to accelerate building codes for new buildings and supporting the implementation and adoption of higher levels of the building code. The last one I wanted to mention was it was actually offered by a different part of the government, and it's called the Low Carbon Economy Fund that once again offers funding for all sorts of greenhouse gas emission reductions. It really supports a wide range of projects, and so it wants companies to come in and make proposals for cost-effective greenhouse gas emission reductions for it to fund. So there's been a ton of uptake and interest in these programs, and this is really helping move towards the goals of the emission reduction plan, really leveraging the ingenuity and the expertise of companies themselves. So when it comes to reducing peak demand specifically, this is an area that's traditionally been addressed by energy system operators and their suppliers. So most provinces have demand-side management programs to encourage businesses to invest in energy-efficient equipment and improve their energy management practices. And for small businesses in particular, there's often options for direct install, so turnkey programs where the efficient technology is directly installed to a facility. So to address any, they don't have enough staff to actually do the work themselves. These programs have been mostly focused on reducing energy use and emissions, but not demand specifically. However, there's one I wanted to highlight, and it's one in the province that I'm in right now, which is Ontario, which has higher electricity rates than some of the other provinces. And the program is a demand response program called the Industrial Conservation Initiative. It is aimed at shifting only the largest energy users, so largely industrial companies, shift their consumption to off-peak hours away from the moments where the system is at the highest demand to reduce the pressure on the system and reduce the need for new infrastructure. So businesses participating in this initiative pay a significant part of their energy bill based on their contribution to the top 5 peak hours of the year. So since they don't know these top 5 hours in advance, businesses work hard to avoid using electricity whenever there might be a peak event. And so I give an example of a very hot day in the middle of August, in the middle of the week. So this program has allowed businesses to manage their energy costs and help defer the need for new investments. And this stat actually in 2021, the program provided 1,200 megawatts of demand response during high demand periods and reduced the overall system costs paid by energy users in the province. So programs like these provide price signals that unleash the innovation of companies that are motivated to reduce their bills and also reduce their emissions. In addition, system operators also have markets that industrial companies can participate in to allow them to balance the grid using innovative and traditional resources. This allows for real-time optimization of how energy is being used and accommodates variable renewable energy use, which is also something I saw noted in an earlier presentation. The distribution system operator model is also being explored, but it allows for that more fine-tuning of use of local resources, but it's also a significant change to the role of energy suppliers in Canada at the moment. So there's lots of really good opportunities for companies to support the reduction of energy use at peak times and really support the system and reap the benefits of that. So I'll leave with a couple of ideas of where I think technologies and particularly digitalization technologies can really help with the system. So the first one is for really large enterprises. They can, the more that they can digitalize and automate their systems, they're able to manage their energy use both for the benefit within the facility, but also to provide demand flexibility and or leverage distributed energy resources that they have available so that they can actually participate in markets and get those benefits in the form of cost reductions. And the second for smaller enterprises is for them to also get these benefits. Automation can really allow them to participate without significant effort, especially if there's an example, and this is more on the residential side, where where individual residential houses give their system operators permission to control a smart thermostat and turn down or turn up the temperature during peak events. So I think there's opportunities for smaller businesses to get some of the benefits of providing demand flexibility, but they can be grouped together by aggregators that can sell their combined demand flexibility to the grid and manage that so that small businesses aren't negatively impacted and get the benefits. So those are just a couple of examples of how I see potential, where I see potential in Canada and beyond. And I'm really looking forward to hearing from the other panelists about technologies to support demand side management efforts around the world. So thank you very much.